Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving headfirst into an absolutely incredible true story of audacity, chaos, and pure survival from the harsh North African desert. We're going to look at a pivotal, make-or-break moment in military history. It's a daring raid that completely defied the odds and actually forged the legacy of one of the world's most famous elite military units. We're going to break down their insane tactics, the sheer scale of the destruction they caused, and of course, the heavy human cost of this mission. Okay, picture this. It's July 1942. You've got a column of jeeps creeping through a treacherous, pitch-black landscape. And they aren't just a little off the beaten path. They are a staggering 230 miles northwest of Cairo, sitting deep behind enemy lines. Their target, a massive, highly critical German airfield. The tension in the air is just palpable. You can imagine the unit's commander scanning the darkness, anxious, wondering if they've even navigated correctly. Leading this absolutely audacious strike is Major David Stirling, a man who would go on to become an absolute legend of British Special Forces. And he's flanked by iconic figures like Captain Paddy Mayne and aspirant Andre Zirnheld.
Part 1. Deep behind enemy lines.
Now, these guys, they aren't rolling up in heavy tanks. No, they're relying completely on speed and the cover of darkness, with just 18 unarmored jeeps to take on an entire fortified German airbase. Suddenly, the pitch black of the night is just shattered as hundreds of bright floodlights flick on. For a terrifying second, Stirling literally thinks they've been spotted, but then the roar of aircraft engines pierces the silence. A German Ju-52 transport plane is coming in to land right on top of their target. The element of surprise is pushed to the absolute brink here. Captain Mayne, cool as ever, just looks at the brightly lit target and remarks, "Ah, she's a beautiful sight, sir."
So, with the target completely lit up and the men gripping their twin Vickers machine guns, Stirling yells his now legendary battle cry, "Who dares wins?" The engines of all 18 jeeps roar to life, and the commandos just charge over the sand from 800 meters out. Stirling's vehicle takes the dead center, with Zirnheld and the others flanking him, forming this neat, deadly line as they speed straight into the teeth of the enemy base.
Part 2. The 34,000-round ambush. Right as the J-52 touches down, the airfield suddenly goes pitch black again. But Stirling, well, he's ready for this. He fires a green flare high into the sky, lighting up the desert, and shouts, "Forward." At his signal, the jeeps rush onto the runway, forming a really tight arrowhead formation, just two columns about 4.5 meters apart, with Stirling right at the tip. They slow down to a crawl. I'm talking just 2.5 miles per hour, which is barely faster than a brisk walk. And then, the absolute chaos begins. 68 machine guns start blasting away all at once. The raw power of those twin Vickers guns literally shakes and rattles the jeeps as they spray the parked German aircraft. Let's just pause to think about the sheer devastating math here. They are firing 34,000 rounds of ammunition every single minute. That is well over 500 bullets every second. The guns are firing at 1,000 rounds per minute each, creating this impenetrable wall of red and white tracer bullets. Incendiary rounds are tearing through the metal of the parked planes, instantly setting them ablaze. If you're a German defender on the ground, this is just an unimaginable wall of fire and deafening noise. And the devastation left in their wake, it's just staggering. As the jeeps roll down the runway, they spare absolutely nothing. The absolute pride of the German air fleet goes up in flames. Stuka dive bombers are blown to pieces. Bf-109 fighters are shredded. Ju-88s, Bf-110s, and even the very Ju-52s that had literally just landed are caught up in the firestorm. The German troops are caught completely off guard. Some actually try to hide under the parked aircraft, which, as you can imagine, quickly proves to be a terrible mistake, as the planes erupt into giant fireballs right above them. Which brings us to Part 3, the Luftwaffe strikes back. Reaching the end of the runway, the jeeps pause for just a second to regroup. But, that short break is all the shocked German defenders need to snap out of it and mount a desperate counterattack. Realizing they're going to lose everything if they don't stop these jeeps, the Germans dash for defensive positions. And suddenly, a deadly duel erupts. The Germans unleash portable mortars and shells are whistling overhead, crashing down right between the SAS jeeps. Then, a 20mm Breda anti-air gun starts firing wildly. Bullets are whizzing over the commandos' heads, forcing them to duck as low as they physically can. Tragically, a gunner named Trooper John Robson is hit and slumps over his machine gun. Stirling's own jeep is almost taken out by a Breda shell that crashes right through it, missing his knees by inches and destroying the engine. Stirling has to jump into Robson's jeep, faced with the heartbreaking sight of his fallen comrade. He immediately orders his sergeant, Johnny Cooper, to eliminate that Breda gun, which they successfully overwhelm in a massive hail of fire. Finally reaching the end of the taxiway, Stirling yells out for a complete stop. "Switch off," he shouts, and suddenly, this raging, deafening battle just gives way to a ghostly silence. The only light is coming from the massive bonfires of the destroyed Luftwaffe squadrons. Stirling quickly checks on his men and their ammo. Amazingly, they still have plenty left. As they're gearing up to leave, the legendary rogue officer Paddy Mayne spots one completely untouched Ju-52 transport plane. Without a word of warning, he just jumps out of his jeep, runs right over to the plane, plants a bomb directly on its wing by hand, and sprints back. The plane explodes into flames just as the SAS speeds off into the night.
Part 4. Hunted by Desert Stukas.
Stirling fires off a red flare, signaling the official retreat. The airfield is completely devastated, sure, but honestly, the mission is far from over. As they speed away from the burning wreckage, they know that the morning sun is going to bring a whole new, deadlier challenge: daylight. And the vengeful remnants of the Luftwaffe will absolutely be hunting them from above. So their desperate survival strategy is to scatter into the harsh desert. They split into 4 distinct groups to make themselves harder targets. They push hard through the night, but as soon as dawn breaks, they have absolutely no choice but to hide their jeeps in whatever thick scrub and bushes they can find, just hoping their makeshift camouflage holds up against aerial reconnaissance. The reality of this retreat is both bizarre and utterly terrifying. At dawn, Lieutenant Carol Mather's group is actually sitting there cooking breakfast, boiling water, sizzling up some sausages, when German Stukas fly directly overhead. Mather later noted they sounded like a swarm of angry bees. The men just huddle under the bushes, miraculously managing to avoid detection. Meanwhile, Stirling's group takes a brief, tense moment to give John Robson a makeshift military burial in the sand, marking his grave with a cross made of tin cans. They have to freeze dead still every single time an enemy plane passes. But the French group? They aren't so lucky. They get caught out in the open. 4 Stukas spot them and just unleash a deadly storm of lead and sand, relentlessly strafing them over and over until the planes literally run out of ammo.
Part 5. The Birth of the SAS.
By the time the Stukas finally leave the French group's camp, 2 of their 3 jeeps are totally wrecked, and aspirant Andre Zirnheld has taken a fatal hit to the stomach and shoulder. Across all 4 groups, these men are battling insane thirst, severe sunburn, and getting utterly lost in this featureless desert terrain. As the French survivors speed across the sand in their one last jeep, Zirnheld's condition rapidly deteriorates. By the time they finally spot the steep escarpment marking their rendezvous point on July 29th, it's clear all hope is lost for him. Zirnheld pulls his second-in-command, Francois Martin, close and whispers these incredibly poetic final words: "I am going to leave you. I am at peace." He passes away right as their brutal escape comes to an end.
Later, while going through Zirnheld's belongings, Martin actually finds this incredibly moving poem that would cement the fallen leader's legacy forever. Known today as the Paratrooper's Prayer, it went on to become the official poem of the French Airborne Forces. Back at the British camp, the staggering success of this crazy raid simply couldn't be ignored. Major David Stirling was awarded the Distinguished Service Order, and just a few short months later, his Rogue L detachment was officially recognized and renamed as the Special Air Service. This explainer really shows how a total underdog raid literally shaped military history. It was this crazy mix of unyielding grit, unparalleled audacity, and just terrible, heavy sacrifice in the North African desert that birthed the modern SAS. It really leaves us to look back at this intense history and wonder, what true mix of grit, strategy, and sheer, unwavering courage does it actually take to make a unit legendary? Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating piece of history with me today. Stay curious and keep learning.